Wanted to go ahead and head offshore this morning, maybe do a little bit offshore and a little bit of inside as well, but we got a forecast of like 15 to 20 miles an hour, probably 4-foot seas out there, which would be a lot for us. So we're going to stay in the backwaters today and show you guys, show you folks some different ways to target flounders. We're going to be working some channels, drifting. We're going to work some boat docks, a lot of structure, probably a lot of live bait fishing today. A lot of mullet minnows we're going to use personally. That's one of our favorites. But there's really 3 different species. You've got summer flounder, southern flounder, and then Gulf flounder. We don't see a lot of Gulf flounder, predominantly southern flounder and summer flounder. What happens basically is a lot of our smaller southern flounder, they winter over in the internal waters up the creeks and rivers, and the summer flounder migrate from offshore. And as you move further and further into summer, those 2 species will kind of overlap around the inlets, the ICW, the sounds, so you'll catch both species.
South of Browns Inlet this year, Division Marine Fisheries have made it 14 inches, and north is 15 and a half. Other than that, let's go get them.
Yeah, let's head out there.
Another school just passed.
Yeah, there's plenty of finger mullet in there. We're catching, I don't know, 3 to 5 inch finger mullet to use for bait today at one point or another.
Nice finger mullet. We have a Eagle Claw, laser sharp, pre-rigged, 5 per pack. These are the 1/0. I'm going to use a 2/0. I got some 2/0s right here. You want to use the size hook, whatever size bait. The bigger the bait, the bigger the hook. In the same pack though. First thing we do is determine where the center of that leader is. It doesn't have to be the center, but I like the center myself. Do a simple square knot. Pull it tight. And you're going to slide your bead down to the knot. And you'll cut your tag end off. Slide your weight on there. There again, it's important. Use as light as weight as you can get by with. As light as it takes to get that bait and keep it on the bottom, that's what you want to use. Heavier the weight, more trash, more hang-ups you're going to have. And we'll tie it to a swivel. Use a uni knot. On this uni knot with this heavy leader, I just go through it twice. Pull it tight. Slide down tight and cut the tag end off. Simple. Easiest rig there is to tie. And that's all there is to it.
We're going to take, we've got probably 50 to 100 minnows in the tank there, but depending on where we're at, you know, roaming around the boat, it's easier just to put a half a dozen or so in a bucket and refresh it occasionally with some new water, and so we can keep them up there by where you're standing. You know, wherever you're in the boat, you can move them around with you.
And you want to hook that bait. There's a dark line right between the front of his eyeballs. Hook that bait just behind it, or just in front of his eyeballs. Any farther back, you'll kill him. You'll hit him in the brain. All right, I just throwed up in that dock and
I got the motor.
Was easing along and had one thump it real hard, and he's on there right now. Don't know what size he is. He felt pretty nice. But I'm going to give him about 10 seconds, and then I'm going to set the hook. I set the hook on flounder myself. I don't believe in just easing into him. I'll set the hook. There he is, nice one. Got to try to get him out of that spot. He had me in the pole, got him out.
Mike, you wouldn't catch the first flounder in about 2 minutes, would you?
Feels decent.
It looks like he's a nice fish.
Nice fish. Nice fish. I mean, real nice fish. Good. Nice.
You gotta need a bigger net, boy.
Good. No, that's a nice one. Told you he felt nice. There he is. How about that citation?
How would you like him in the tournament Saturday? That's a 9-pounder to 10-pounder. 9 pounds probably right there.
See where that hook? I give it to him about 10 to 15 seconds and barely have him hooked. They'll grab the bait and lock them jaws down tight. And if you don't set that hook, you'll have him on, and he'll be pulling. You think you'll have him hooked. As soon as he feels some, he'll say, something ain't right here. He'll open his mouth up as wide as he can and shake that head, throw your bait right out. So that's why you want to set the hook. Set the hook, get that hook set. That ain't no bad one there, is it?
I'll tell you what, he'll win any tournament. Now, just to let you guys know, it's not that easy all the time. That's only the second big one we've had in quite a few weeks this season, but typically a big one around here is what, 4 or 5 pounds?
You see these teeth, how they face in the mouth? These fish will lock that mouth down, and they'll lock down on your leader, the whole fish and everything. And you go and, if you don't set that hook, get that hook set in him, he'll just swim along just like that, locked down. When he feels like something's not right, he'll open that mouth up that wide, shake his head 2 or 3 times, and spit your whole bait out. And most of the time, these teeth will, they'll scale your mullet for you. And that's where everybody gets the feeling that a flounder likes to scale the mullet. He'll play with it, roll it in his mouth, and scale them out. No. That flounder scales the mullet when you pull that fish through them teeth.
Just barely
had him right there. Had him just like that. And when I pulled it to set the hook, it pulled it right out and scaled him. And that's where you get the theory of scaling a mullet. That's what they do.
We're still working these boat docks where Mike caught that big flounder, but the current's picked up now. And it's probably coming through about 2 knots or so through here, but we're slowing the drift down just a little bit with the trolling motor. That's allowing us to just cast up current and let our baits kind of come back to us with the current, but work it slowly. Right now the tide and the wind are coming together. If we shut the trolling motor off, we're probably going to drift so fast it'd be hard to keep a bait on the bottom in this particular channel.
You want to cast up and let that bait get down on the bottom. You'll feel it hit the bottom, and you want to see how I'm easing up, keeping that slack out. Keep a feel on the line so you'll feel one if one hits it. You don't want to let it go slack. You want to keep just a little bit of pressure and let that current bump it right across the bottom, real lightly. There again, lightweight.
So we got a 2 knot current at least, 2 or 3 knot current, and we've got a 1/2 ounce weight at the most?
Half ounce.
1/2 ounce weight on both of ours, and we're tending bottom the entire time. You could anchor up and just fish a spot for 15, 20 minutes if you don't have a trolling motor, if the drift is too fast, and then move down a few docks and do the same thing again. But there's no boats in here right now blocking this drift, so we're just taking a slow drift and allowing it to work the whole area. Mike had just a little bit too much on his plate this morning there at breakfast, so we had to wait for him to finish breakfast to get out here. Actually,
4 eggs and a steak.
It was probably me with 4 eggs and a steak and hash browns and English muffin. But either way, we got here and you nailed them, so you got a big one. The other thing that we hadn't really mentioned is as long as you have plenty of live bait, make sure you keep a nice live mullet on there. If they start looking tired, worn out, change them out, put a fresh one on. Unless you've went and paid about $5 a dozen for them. You'll find a lot of small fish in the middle of the channels, but you'll catch more of your large flounder, your citation flounder, the ones you want to catch during tournaments and heck, anytime. Those big fish, you're going to find them around structure, whether it's a boat dock, whether it's a rock pile, bridge pylons, oyster rocks, anything that provides structure.
Another thing is,
something just hit me right there, Mike. I just got a hard hit.
If we had fished this place at slack tide or a rising tide and didn't do any good, and you think, well, there's no fish there. Well, when this tide has changed and fell, these fish will come in here and stage up behind this dock.
That's a flounder there.
Just like this one just did.
He's a keeper. He's a nice one. He might have to go in the grease. I don't know, Mike. He's got to be 15 and a half. He's 15 and 3/4, 15 and 7/8. So he would be a keeper.
Pretty good thump right there. Drop the rod tip to him. If he decides to run, then I'm going to open this bell up and give him line. Don't want to put no pressure. Don't want him to feel me. Ease that rod tip up, see if he still has it. Yeah, he's still on there.
Something's on there. It's not moving it's not taking off like a lizard fish either.
Go ahead and set the hook. Good hook set. That's a flounder.
That's a big flounder. Don't catch 2 big ones on me today, boy.
It's just decent. Nice flounder, about 17 inches.
Good job.
Like I said, we casted about 20 times on that slack tide right there. Didn't catch anything. That tide started coming in and they staged up there. They're moving in here, staging up behind these pylons.
He's got, what's on his backside there? He's been bitten?
Been bitten by a shark. Has 3 shark teeth marks on him. Has them on that side too.
Yeah. One of the things that we hadn't really mentioned in here, we talked about fishing boat docks. It's a type of structure. But usually around these boat docks you have something else. It's not necessarily structure, but you usually have folks with crab traps. Look right there on this dock behind us. This guy's got a crab trap. Typically they'll stack those full of bait, drop them down. They're trying to catch crabs, but that ends up being a chum pot. It'll draw their fish in, flounders in. They'll catch flounders inside those crab traps as well. The other thing too, if you look around, you might see one here. You'll find cleaning tables, fish cleaning stations on people's docks. And they're not all used all the time, so it's not always helpful. But if you pay close attention when you're out, folks that are always on their docks and you see them getting in on their boat and they got rods and reels, they're probably cleaning fish on their docks and dropping those scraps off. And there's a lot of times those scraps settle down right around their dock pylons, and that draws flounders in as well. A lot of times you'll have a lot of bluefish and stuff and ladyfish and stuff come in around these lights, and they're tearing up the glass minnows and the mullet minnows. And a lot of times you have flounder laying on the bottom, whether they're coming up and hitting the mullet minnows and stuff, or whether they're sitting down there catching the scraps coming off from everything. Flounder's an opportunistic feeder. I mean, he'll ambush a live bait, but he'll eat a dead bait too.
This year there's 2 different size limit regulations for flounder fishing recreationally in North Carolina. South of Browns Inlet, the size limit is 14 inches, and in the western parts of Albemarle and Pamlico Sound, the size limit is also 14 inches. North of Browns Inlet and the eastern parts of the sounds, it's 15.5 inches. The reason for the size limit differences is for the management of summer flounder, which is managed coastwide from Massachusetts to North Carolina. North Carolina receives a recreational allocation of summer flounder, as do the states north of us, and because of a lower allocation this year and because of recreational overages last year, North Carolina was required to reduce their harvest by 34%. The best way to reach that reduction was to increase the size limit to 15.5 inches.
If you were in Morehead City, wanting to fish the same way, I'd fish around, well, both Morehead City and Beaufort waterfronts.
Yeah, what, Taylor's Creek?
Taylor's Creek, the docks, the port, or off the seawall. It's deep. You're going to have to step up your sinker probably about a 2-ounce, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I mean,
you might. All depends on the current out there. Yeah, that port is. They catch really big flounders around the port walls and whatnot. As long as they're not patrolling the area and keeping boats out for a ship unloading or something like that, you can get right into the port walls and fish them. Last season, I think there were some 10, 11, 12-pound flounders caught around the port walls there. But yeah, Taylor's Creek, like Mike said, Morehead City waterfront. Around the bridge pylons, they do really well around those bridges where there's what happens is the current, as it drops out or comes in, it digs out, eats out a place on the bottom, on the last pylon, actually around all the pylons, but on the last pylon on either side, whether it's falling tide or rising tide, and those locations, those pockets form. Be a little bit deeper around the back side of the pylon than it is in the front side or away from the pylons. And those locations, those flounders will lay in those depressions around those bridge pylons. Anyway, we're moving along. We're still, targeting some boat docks right now. We've kind of got a really strong current, and we've got a really strong wind, so it might, hamper your ability to fish some places, but you can still work the ICW along boat docks for flounders. We're looking for structure. The dock itself is structure, but all along the ICW you'll have folks that have put, rock out to make a wall versus putting a seawall out. They've created one out of rock, and a lot of that stuff gets dropped out in the water too. And all down the ICW you'll find sections like this along people's shorelines. Those rocks, you got a lot of growth on them. Again, you got the oysters growing on them, barnacles and mussels growing on them. All that attracts bait fish, and then that attracts our game fish, our flounders, redfish, trout, bluefish, ladyfish. All that stuff will gather in around these places. It's not a guarantee, but you got to go from place to place and try it out. You're along the ICW. Fish move through here to come into the sound, to come into the rivers from the ocean and back and forth. So What we just have right now, the situation we have now, is we just got off a low tide. So low tide, falling tide, we got a lot of creek mouths along the ICW here, and we have structure like we're talking about. So all the bait coming out of the creeks, if there's any fish that might have come out of those creeks as well, or any fish in the ICW that will pull into those areas to feed on those shrimp and mullet and shad coming out, that's the situation we're sitting on right now. Tide just turned about an hour ago, and the tide's rising back up, but we're hoping that maybe we'd have some flounders and maybe some redfish too laying in these places right now.
This particular spot is a little bit shallower than where we've been fishing, so I scaled down. This is about a 1/4 ounce.
Yeah, this is probably 4 or 5 foot of water around here.
Less tide, shallower water, scale down. Doesn't take as much weight. So you scale down your weights, you won't hang the bottom up as much. There's a lot of hangs around here.
A lot of hangs, a lot of boulders down there.
Anything on it?
Feels like something. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
Right at 15 1/4 to 15 and a half. He's just barely a keeper, that one. Oh, 3 pounder.
I got one going, I believe.
Bigger net, getting a bigger net tomorrow.
Nice.
Two. Good solid 4 pounder. There we go. He's 4 pounds right there. About 3 3/4. We were just about ready to lose him, Mike. Look, he grabbed that bait. He didn't have time to swallow that bait. He took off running. I set the hook on. We got a little bit of that jawbone, that skin on that jawbone. That's it. Size of his mouth. I'm talking about the size of the bait he could eat. There's 3 inches across his mouth right there.
There he is. He nailed it. I thought he was a lot bigger than that, the way he nailed it.
It's a whole lot easier if you take that flounder, lay him down flat, let him settle down. If he'll settle down, he swallowed that one. Point the fish away from you, that flounder pointed away from you. Right hand with the fish pointing away from you, he's got a soft spot right by his fin, his pectoral fin, and then put your opposite fingers, oppose him, and you can pick him up. You can hold him like that.
He hit it right underneath that floating dock.
What you can do, we do this a lot. When they get down deep like that and you got to release a fish, you got to get the hook out. If we try, it's a semi-circle hook, a kale hook, you can't get it out the mouth. So you can take and open up the gill plate and stay just outside the gills, and you can grab that leader, pull it out like that. Now you can pry it, pop it back out. See that? And I haven't hurt that fish now. I can release that fish if I have to. Most folks, it gets down in there and they're going to try to yank it out because they don't want to lose their hook. And you're going to kill the fish definitely. If he's a keeper, fine, he's going to go in ice. But if he's a short fish, you've just killed a fish for no reason. So pull it out the gill plate and just pop it out, and you'll get it right back out the mouth.
Very nice. Nice one.
So there'll be one back here. How about right here? He's probably 9 pounds, that one then. This one's, we just weighed this one, it's 4.05. So I imagine his is probably close to 9 pounds. Would you say it was 27 and a half?
Yeah, 27.5 inches. We're here at Dudley's Marina. Let's see if he, well, we know he's a citation.
The state of North Carolina has a citation program. God, 935. State of North Carolina has a citation program. It's actually right here, the tournament itself. And Dudley's Marina is one of the official weigh stations for it. If you're ever unsure about whether or not you got a citation size fish, bring it, if you're down this way, bring it by Dudley's, and they'll measure them and weigh them. If he meets the weight requirement, they'll also do a length and a girth on them. And then you'll get a copy of this, and then the next season, early in the season, the state will send out those awards. They call them citations. That's an award in this case. So Mike, he might have a citation there.